Hi, Melissa.
Hey, 1 second.
Me too. I'm trying to save something.
I'm just trying to fix the air conditioner.
Oh, nice.
Okay, I think we got it.
Excellent.
Just two of us. Oh, okay, my.
Just give them, they'll all pour in 1 minute.
Okay.
Except for Melody.
Oh no. Do we hear from
her? Yeah, she's let us know twice that she'll be 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Okay.
And here's April.
Hey, April. You're muted. No.
No.
Nope.
No.
There you go. I hear a laugh.
I know this is your favorite kind of weather.
Oh yes, pretty. I'm sitting here actually with an air conditioner on high, set at 60 degrees.
Oof.
Wow. I would be a comatose. I'd be frozen and having to put on 4 sweaters.
Well, at home, because I'm at my grandmother's, but when I'm at home, I'll sit with the air conditioner on high because I am really frugal with the propane. I only use exactly what I need just to keep the house from being too cold. So we keep our house at 60, 62 all winter so that I can use the air conditioner on high all summer. And I'll sit there watching TV now with a blanket on. And Chris will say, well, we can turn the air conditioner off. I said, no, I'm not cold. My feet are cold. And I put one in the bedroom this year. So we have a nice Arctic cave to live in or sleep in.
Well, yeah, our bedroom's cold. In the winter, we don't really have much heat in our bedroom.
It's good. It's okay. Good to sleep with it a little cooler. It's actually healthy.
Yeah, my mom used to always open my window when I was little and then put like 10 comforters on top of me.
Oh, there's someone coming in the door. Yeah, so my house and my grandmother's house, I mean my mom's house, we had wood heat. So it was on or off, right? Either or, because it was wood heat. It was really on or there was nothing. So but in my bedroom, I had bronchitis a lot, and it was from the dry heat. And so potential dry heat. So they turned the heat off to my bedroom. It helped because wood heat's very dry. Mom had this huge humidifier in the hallway and it had inside, it had this big wheel that was like one of those water wheels on a sawmill. Like it would go like this on the inside. A sponge would go down in the big well, pick up water, and it would put it was actually quite interesting. It was like a 1970s humidifier.
Back in the old days.
Yeah. Which, can you tell, 1970s, orange curtains, the rug matches the curtains. Here, I'll show you. Hold on. I'll show you.
That's mid-century.
Yeah. Here, you got to take a little tour. This is
what a great fireplace.
I'm just start recording just so they know we weren't just.
Peg, when you first come on and you go onto the calendar, don't open Zoom first. Go to the calendar and click the link.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. That's what I've always done, and it's always not been a problem. And I Zoom with, other groups, and I've never had a Zoom problem. But with, just clicking on the links. link. Okay, here we go.
Go to Zoom.
Okay, hold on. Didn't like the way I put my password in.
Oh, I know, it's awful.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Technology is great until it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's like no
right,
in
that's
between.
true.
It's certainly not great when it adds 15 minutes to our meeting.
I
Yeah.
am so sorry if this isn't working. Okay,
it's
so
not
I'm
your
gonna go
fault.
back to the calendar. Hold on, I'm putting the phone down.
okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna email it to her, see if it works.
I went in via Chrome. I don't know if that has a,
Okay, I'm putting you on speakerphone. So here I go.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you, do you use Chrome for your
Browser.
browser.
browser?
Safari.
Do you have Chrome as an option?
No, she's got an Apple.
No,
What
I
the-
use Chrome on
Yeah,
Apple,
I've
Oh,
got
do
a
you?
Chrome on Apple. Yeah.
because that's the other thing. It could be that you should use Chrome and not Safari if this doesn't work. But-
Okay, I'm hitting on the link.
Okay, please work.
It says, do you want to allow this page to open Zoom Us? And I'm gonna hit
Yes.
allow.
Yep.
Then it says, click allow on the dialog shown by your browser. If you don't see a dialog, click launch meeting below. So I don't see a dialogue anywhere. I don't know what that's even supposed to look like. So here I'm gonna hit on launch meeting, same thing Becky and I just went through. Then it says, do you want to allow this page to open Zoom us? And I'm gonna hit
Yes.
allow. And it goes right back to the launch meeting page. I don't know what is going on. I just used this Monday and it was no problem. I zoomed, I'm sorry, I zoomed on Monday morning with no problem.
This is weird.
Well, can I just do this on the phone so we don't hold everything up forever?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just keep it on the phone.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what's
That's
going
all
on.
It's all right. We miss you.
Well, I'll miss you too, but I'm still here.
You're here in spirit and voice.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Do we have enough people for a quorum?
Yes, you have
Yes.
4 out of 5. You have a quorum.
So why don't we start the meeting? It is
6:45.
order. All those in favor?
Overnight side.
Hi.
Makepeace and Neil, I.
Stein, I.
Peg, aye. Ross, aye. Whoever I am. Okay, so it's 7:46 according to my clock. And the first thing is approve the minutes of the August 4th, 2002 meeting. And I wasn't there, so George, you're gonna have to cross me off. That's when I was in Ohio.
Okay, well, I sent it to everybody. Did everybody get a chance to look at it?
I did.
Yeah, but it just had members present, and I wasn't present.
Oh, okay, let me fix that.
Yeah.
That's what I meant, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. So does everybody else feel that they need to make any changes to the minutes?
No, they're fine.
Okay, thank you, George.
You're welcome. Make a motion to pass them as amended.
And I'll second.
Okay, make a motion to pass, minutes
Overnight side.
written. Ross, aye.
Overnight side.
Makepeace O'Neill, I.
Stein, I. All right.
Okay, done.
All right, so now the job description, since I wasn't here, the next thing on the agenda is continue to work on the standard operating practices documents for fire position. Now, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so can we sort of go over what's happened? It says continues to work.
Yes.
So I'm
So
gonna
it,
have somebody explain to me, well, what went on with that?
Yeah. So Melissa, you were taking all those notes, weren't you? You would
yes, and I'm gonna bring them up now.
Really
Hold on.
appreciate that.
Give me a second. I just have to find it.
So what we found was the fire chief's job description was really, a lot of it was really standard operating practices. So what we've been doing, what we were doing is pulling those out of the job description, and we're making a separate document that should be helpful for our new fire chief, for anybody, yes. The amount of detail in the job description was really astounding in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was more tasks. Some of it was
Yes.
tasks, not it's slowly popping up. Give me a second.
So what will we do with this document once we complete it?
We give it, so would we approve it as a committee and then hand it to the select board for them to approve it?
I believe that's the process.
But the question is, I think George is asking whether it becomes, is it attached to as an appendix to the fire chief's job description or not?
And do we also approach the fire chief with it and say, here's what we've developed. It's a draft. Do we want his input? Or is it us dictating to him what his job is?
That's a really
Oh,
good idea.
I think bringing him in is probably a great idea.
But is it a bad precedent to have this attached to a job description?
Well, that's what I was wondering, because is it, if you do it for one, should you have it for all? And
why are we doing it for this one and not the others?
Because I think this one was so detailed, right? So
Yes.
maybe with the job descriptions that are so detailed, that's where you have it. I don't know, or
Well-
maybe in one for each one of them and it grows over time.
or you separate them and just keep it on file for future reference.
Which one do we want? You want to see the operating tasks, procedures? Okay, so let
Yeah.
me share that.
Because for me, all department heads' jobs, you can write detailed SOP, standard operating procedures. So why are we picking this department to do that? Just
Well,
because somebody had recommended to us a job description that was too detailed isn't necessarily a reason to change the way we do things.
but
Right.
it also is acknowledging that we have a brand new fire chief after 14 million years. I mean,
Do we have a brand new fire chief?
Yes, we do.
yes,
Um,
Oh, I didn't know that. Holy mackerel. Who is it?
yes.
It's Lenny Zerwanka.
Is
Oh.
there going to be a PAF for Peg to sign?
But it
I'm sorry,
also,
George.
it's almost,
Yes, there
it's-
should be. I haven't done it yet because Walter always did them. I'll get it done.
Oh, my God.
Walter could do it. I don't even know.
Yeah,
whether
we
he
can.
can.
Money when he was 2 years old.
I know, I love this story.
But I think in light of the fact that a number of department, as key positions, as people leave, that maybe help, part of the responsibilities, how do you generate an SLP for the next person? Like when we hire a new highway superintendent.
I think it's maybe a good practice for the outgoing one as they announce their retirement to sit down and kind of write out some of this.
Right.
To start it, and then we take it from there, I guess,
Or we could interview them if they'd be willing to come to a meeting and,
So the
tell us
first
what's,
person that did something like this was when our land use clerk left. She put together an instructional manual that included like all the different computers and equipment and passwords for all the different things she used, and then a description of her work. And then it ended up being a full notebook of this
Wow.
is the job. So to assist somebody walking into it,
Mhm.
which was astounding because she was only in the position for a year. But she felt bad about leaving, so she put this all together.
Wow. That's
Wow.
and it really
And
on
right
board.
now, Linda Scott is working on a version for the administrative secretary position. She's putting together a notebook to hand off. So maybe this list of operating practices, it becomes part of a supplement that over time we can develop for all positions, but not attached to the job description.
Right, because it's not, And it wouldn't be, it's like, we're not gonna ask you, Becky, to sit down and write all this stuff up, you know. It's you're while you're working the job, it doesn't make sense to have people do that, but somebody like Tim is gonna hand it off to somebody.
Yeah.
It seems to me, if we think it's something that's necessary and every department manager should have one, so that the town can have standard operating procedures for all the managerial positions, it seems to me the managers should be the ones writing them.
Right.
And it's also helpful when some institutional knowledge gets passed on too.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that would probably be the primary purpose, right?
Yeah. And a slightly onboarding thing too, right? Like
Yeah, but really tied together.
So do we want to, you know, maybe draft up something that we could vote on as a committee and hand off to the select board?
I was just gonna suggest, Melissa, maybe you could email this, what we're looking at, to Peg.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to email you. It's really rough. It was just basically pulling stuff out of the
That
job
would be
description.
great.
And
That would be great.
yep, give me
You know-
1 second.
When I was working, you know, policies and procedures was something that everybody always talked about, but few companies really had, and a lot of departments didn't have. But they can be made. I had a template that made it very simple, and it seems to me if we developed a template and we could hand it off to the managers, and you know, the select board could charge them with, in the next 3 months, produce standard policies and procedures for your department.
I would
Draft.
encourage that timeline to be a year.
Yeah, but I was thinking 12 months made more sense.
That's
Our-
fine.
Our
right.
department heads are beyond,
It's always the last thing that gets done. There's no question about it. But giving them fixed timeline, getting buy-in from them, and just asking for a draft that the select board can review. I don't think it's our job. We're not going to sit here and try and guess what everybody
yeah,
does.
and I don't think it really should be asked for until somebody's leaving.
So do it on
So I-
a case-by-case basis and just
Yeah.
develop them.
Yeah.
Having created one when I left the admission office, what I did when I gave my notice, so mine was as I was leaving, right? I made it to pass things on. The first thing I did for like the first 4 or 5 days is sat down and wrote down all my tasks in the day, as a start, you know, for about a week, and then I started creating it. Although some of it was based on a cyclical calendar, which I'm not sure that everybody in town and manager would have a necessarily cyclical calendar in the same way, but it was just a way to start getting stuff on paper, you know. That wasn't too time consuming.
Thank you, Melissa. I got this. I
And
got,
mine was you know, an oral, just an oral meeting. It was also time, it was COVID, but just a Zoom meeting, just so it was all verbal. And then she quit, so who knows?
You scared her.
Well, I like Becky's idea too. I mean, we can put this down as future business.
Yeah,
I think the superintendent of the highway would be our first victim, if you will,
yeah.
given that we know that his time is, has he not put in his notice? Is he?
He has, I'm working on his contract. He's extending for a year, so it'll be next September 30th or October 1st.
So, you know,
23.
Okay. I'll leave the
at a
time
minimum,
then.
we know in a year from now, we would like him to do that. So we could approach him sometime in the near future with, you know, this request. And we can put together a template for him to make it simple for him, because it really can be simple. You know, policy is to maintain the roads, keep the roads clear. Procedures are, we plow, we order supplies, you know, and that kind of thing. And that's where a lot of what we did were the procedures, but we can have a high level policy, roughly what the responsibility of the department is. And I'd be happy to work on putting that template together. Unfortunately,
Oh, that would be great.
all the ones I've done.
would be much appreciated. Can I ask a question? Excuse me. Where did, you know, the standard operation procedures, is this something we've had over the years? Did I miss
No.
something? Where, the thing I'm looking at, the Melissa sent.
It was pulled out of the 2018 rendition of Walter Tibbetts fire chief job description. He went in and made massive changes to his job description and that were approved. And so when the board was reviewing it, they realized how much different a lot of the material was from a regular job description and sorted out tasks from other job description material.
Okay.
And to add to that, as we were changing things, we didn't want to lose certain things either. So it was a way to pull it out and kind of plop it here until we figured it out.
Yeah,
Brainstorming a little bit.
thank you. So, how far along did we get on this at the last meeting?
Not far. We just pulled it out. So we had just pulled it out and this is what you're seeing, Peg, and I'm scrolling for everybody
Yeah,
that can
how many-
see it.
How
Is
many pages is it?
this one is 3 pages, but there's a lot of space and it's not formatted in any way. It was pretty much copied and pasted, you know, so there's not really any format to
There's
it.
about 30 items on it.
Hang on.
23 and 13, 36.
Yeah.
15, 16, 29.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so probably, yeah, about 36 or so, if you were to number them all in that way.
yes, if the, yeah.
I'm
And
happy
there's
to-
2 and 3 missing, whatever that would be on page 2. Numbers 2 and 3 they have numbers, but there's nothing, no words after the numbers, sort of
Yeah,
blank.
that was the copy and pasting, Peg. I think that's at the point when which we were getting a little tired. It was like 9 o'clock, I think, at that point when we hit.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I saw your meeting went on for a while.
Hello?
So,
Can you hear me?
Weekend.
You can't.
Yes,
hear me.
George.
You can.
I
hear
can
me.
hear you, George. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Well, my sound went out for about 3 minutes, so I missed a whole section of conversation, but
Oh,
So
no.
Peg was just kind of looking through the document and had noticed that 2 and 3 kind of in the middle of the screen right now had numbers but no content. And I told her that was part of the copy and pasting, and probably, I think, if I remember correctly, where we all had gotten, it was like 9:15 and we're all like, we just need to stop.
okay, all right, I got you.
But I
so
think we
how do we
pulled,
go forward with this?
well, first, maybe we need to make sure we've pulled off of the job description everything we wanted. And I think we did get to that point, didn't we?
We did,
We
'cause we had
voted on it.
approved- We had
Okay.
voted on the job description, yes.
So our task is more like what George was talking about, how to put this in some kind of order.
I'm happy to take a stab at it and email it out to everybody and organize it in something that's a little less,
I mean,
you know.
what we want to
Unless someone
roughly,
else wants to take it and do that, and I can, you know, whatever. I'm happy to do whatever.
maybe,
Not you.
Well, have we agreed on the policies and procedures? Where I thought we were going was a policies procedure document would be completed by managers as they announce their leaving their jobs.
yeah.
And we would, in the meantime, develop a template. Once we approve the template, hand it off to Tim and ask Tim to complete it for the highway department.
Right.
That's what I thought we were doing.
And maybe, George, too, we add this to it. We use this as a, create the format or the template and then drop this into the template to see how it works. Kind of as a test
We'll
case.
use the fire department as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we play with it now, or is that too time consuming?
I don't know, whatever people want to do. I'm happy to, you tell me what you want to do. I'm happy to edit on screen or,
So a policy,
Would it be,
just the procedures.
what? I didn't hear that.
It's really not policies. I was tripping up on the word policies there, George.
So you think we should just do operating procedures or standard
Yeah.
operating procedure like it's written?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
would it be, now Melissa volunteered to sort of go over and put it together Would it be better for one person to take a stab at it at first and then come
Probably.
back?
Well, I think George had said something about making a template format and then we can
Or
test.
show an
it.
example. Yeah.
Yeah, short example, and then we can drop this information in, like were you thinking of fill in the blank, George, or that type of thing? Or
Well, I mean,
outline or-
if a manager just saw the document we're producing for the fire department, they would read through it and then they would, I think, know what to do. So having an example in this case is probably fine.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking now.
Well, what do other folks think about that?
I think you need an example. You got to play with a model. And then, work out all the kinks before you ask people to roll it out.
Yeah. And this will be a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. All right. So should we?
So there's two. Is it going to be George working on the model
That's
for
right.
this template, or is it Melissa playing? I think George's work would need to come first.
Well,
I
I'm
think
thinking, standard operating procedures, what is that? It's a list of tasks. It's a list of all the things that have to be done. I think that's what this is, right? I mean, we're developing it.
Yes.
What I was thinking of earlier was just from my experience where, like cash management, I would have the policy is to manage cash, invest cash, make sure it's liquid, blah, blah, blah. And then below it, all the things we do to do that, bank reconciliation, checking bank balances, those would be the procedures of the steps.
Yeah.
In this case, we're bypassing the policy and we're just talking about the procedures. So I
Right.
think what we're doing here is the example.
All right.
Because I think you don't really want to buy. So you're really saying cash management is the policy?
No,
The
no.
po-
That's,
So the job would be cash management and the policy would be to assess and invest excess funds, provide liquidity for paying bills, managing receipts. And then that's the policy. That's the cash manager's policies are to do those things. Then the procedures are, how do you do those things? So watch the markets, watch the cash flow statements, whatever.
monthly reconciliation or
Right. Reconcile the bank account, make transfers, daily transfers of cash to the accounts that need the funds. So you're talking about overall what the responsibility is. The responsibility is to make sure that there's cash to pay the bills. And then the steps, the procedures are the steps that you need to do to ensure that that happens. So I like that template. I like that method because you understand why these steps exist.
Yeah.
There's the context for all
Yeah.
these steps.
yes.
But that's just, that doesn't mean we have to do that. That's just the example that I'm drawing from as I explain this.
Right.
I think we kind of have that started because what's in red is it kind of explains what the emergency management director does. And then the other things down below can be honed into the more detailed task part. I think anyway.
Yeah, I think
Just
you're right.
No, I agree.
So develop
that's
a
true.
local governance. Yes. And so maybe it's a matter of editing what we've got. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I keep trying to scroll it down. I can't do it.
Oh, let me know. I can scroll down.
So yeah,
Yeah, it kind of is in that format
it
already.
really is.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think we did that last time.
So what's red in front of it, we would, above it, we would have a heading policies. And then below it, we'd have SOPs or procedures, standard operating procedures or procedures. And then just list all those things that a person does to meet that objective of the policy.
Is the
Yeah, is
That's
kind of what I'm
filling.
thinking. And then above what's in red, it would be policies.
EMD coordinates. the
I don't know if
program.
that makes sense in the context of town, but
I know, I'm trying to overlay it. It makes sense in terms of the emergency management director. you know, that there is a general policy for the fire chief. Is there a general policy? You know, is coordinate,
Firefighting,
yeah, firefighting and
protection of,
EMT.
you know, property and lives and property.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, you know, putting out fires, responding to emergencies,
Medical response.
medical response, those are important, you know,
Yeah.
it makes it very clear who in this town is responsible for those things.
but also in conjunction with, you know, the police department. But that
Well, and they would
does-
have their own set, and sometimes there's crossover,
Yep.
There would
Yes.
definitely be crossover.
you know, but you know, but everybody's job is defined, and of course, yeah, you know, in those situations where they both show up, they have a chain of command, you know, they know who's responsible for what. And I don't, you know, you probably do want to build that in here to some extent.
Yes,
But again, those are just suggestions, just drawing on what I did. It's really whatever.
yeah,
Oh, those are good, really good.
It's not much different than what I did. I just did a page for each one of the tasks that listed what the task was in general and then how to do it, you know, so basically the same thing. No, I had to be
Yes.
very detail oriented because no one knew how to do my job when I left and there was no one to hand the book to. I for replacement.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You can have multiple policies and procedures for the fire department.
yes.
One of the policies is to respond to is emergency management. This right here is the emergency management policy and procedure. Then we could have one for fire response, then we could have one, you know, or try to put them all together. The way I did it was in my department, I had one for each of the different tasks, each of the different responsibilities, but you know, we had a lot of responsibilities in the office. And just have to say who owns it at the very top.
Right. And weren't we also keeping the emergency management director somewhat separate? Because it's not clear where that's going to land, I think, at this
Wait,
point.
no, it is clear. I mean, it stays with the fire chief's job description.
Okay. Okay.
But he can appoint, or there can be an appointment of a,
Yeah.
what was it? It was a deputy emergency management director, right? Becky?
No, I think what we're doing is, Kristen will
Oh.
be as the second person. As the deputy, emergency management will be responsible during this stretch of time as the lead person as Lenny gets acclimated. So it's not removing it from his job, it's
Okay.
shifting the lead role
Yeah,
as he
for
gets
transition.
settled in.
Okay.
The beauty of having some of the different functions within a department in separate policies and procedures, if that particular one, I think is a good example, were to move from one department to the next,
Yeah, go.
the policy doesn't change, the procedures probably don't change,
That's right.
and it's well documented. So he can, you know, I forget his first name. Fire chief can hand it
Len.
to, I forget her first name, the police
Kristen.
chief.
Kristen.
Kristen, thank you. You know, and she sees it, she's got it, everybody agrees to it, and it's already there.
Yeah, I agree.
And it seems like it's really up to those two department heads to sort out who takes which role at this point.
Well,
We
it's
can
actually
help
the
them
select board is
separate
assigning it,
it. Yeah,
but they will be working together to cross-train.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so then the other policy is regarding fire response of medical response. And hi, Melody. You must be frazzled a
Hey.
long day.
Yes.
Sorry. And Peg is with us by phone. She can't get her Zoom going, so Peg is here as well.
Yeah, so it just must be me then. Nobody else seems to be, everybody else is there in person, more or less,
Well, on Zoom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
resume.
on Zoom.
So
Yeah.
Peg, a side note, check to see if your Zoom app might need to be updated because that may cause inability to get on. I know it did earlier during COVID. I don't know if it's
How
an
do
issue.
I do, well, let's talk about that later. Maybe you could,
Yep.
maybe we could talk later, and I don't know. I'll ask Mike if, he doesn't do Zoom, so I don't know if he's familiar with it, but I'll check into it. And
Yeah.
I'll give you an email if I can't. I'll check on a Zoom update. I mean, okay. But anyway, back to what we're talking about, doing the standard operating practices. So what should we do? I sort of feel I'm out of the loop on this. So just because, so what do people feel is the best way to go about this? I know we've been talking about that, but have we come to a conclusion that we do policy and then procedures?
Yeah, I think that is where we're at. That's my understanding. And we sort of have a good framework with the document we started to generate last
Okay.
time.
We were also talking about doing it, not necessarily for the whole department, but for the important responsibilities of each department. So we could have a policy procedure pertaining to fire response, one pertaining to emergency management, another one pertaining to medical responses. And then, what the policy is for a medical response to respond to a 911 call immediately, with the rescue crew, whatever, and then what the procedures are.
So do we have, I have in front of me the emergency management director. Do we have any other, do we have anything specifically about fire responses or medical responses? Or is that something we need to be doing? Do we have not a template, but do we have something? Did you guys, at the last meeting, where did this come from that I'm looking at?
The job description.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was copied and pasted. So all of this verbiage and stuff was when we redid a section of and condensed it, or thought, well, this doesn't fit in a job description. We just slid it over into this document and just kind of left it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, this was what we pulled out of the other one with no real structure at all.
And so as we're talking, I can see Melissa is changing on our screen, but Peg, you can't see it because you have the email, sort of the next step about the fire responsibility and the EMT
Placeholder.
and supervisory. You're starting to list who are the people the chief has to supervise.
Yeah.
So it's
just so Melody's up to speed as well. So I know, Melody, you're aware of what we were doing when we were taking these steps out of the fire chief's job description. Now what we're thinking is the managers of each department should develop policies and procedures in their department, because they know what their responsibilities are and what their procedures are. And so what we're doing here is developing a sample policy procedure for one of the policies in the fire department, that is emergency management. Is that correct, everybody?
Yeah.
And then, and then we're thinking Becky, you or the select board would ask the managers, and we're thinking it's when a department head is leaving the department, we would ask them to do this as a part of their exit strategy to help us with the orientation and onboarding of the replacement.
I think once we get the template built, I'm pretty sure the police chief might want to jump in and do hers, and
You can encourage it early on. Like you can encourage them to have like an ongoing sort of note taking for it, so that when they do sit down to do it, it'll be easy, but and not required certainly until then.
Yeah, I think maybe we as the personnel board would recommend the development of policies and procedures to the select board. And then from a practical point of view, they would provide them with a template, give them 12 months to do it. If the select board thinks it's too burdensome, at a minimum, we would think that you should at least ask managers who we know will be departing to do it before they leave.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so at a minimum, we would ask Tim to do it, knowing that the superintendent of the highway is not going to be, is going to be retiring. But if the select board agrees with us and sees real value in the importance of it, they might choose to bring the managers together as a group and say, here, got an assignment for you.
Well, I want to just let you know that with the hiring process for the fire chief, it became evident that the department doesn't have written procedures to go by. So this would be really, I think this will give the fire department a running start by building this template and giving them an outline to build from and work from.
And I would assume as Lenny grows into his job, he's perfectly welcome to add to this or
Oh, yeah.
edit this.
But I think to ask him to create it when he's just starting out is
That's
a lot.
No, that
That's
would be way
nuts.
too much.
Yeah.
You know
so
where I think,
it's really helpful.
where I think it is helpful is when someone starts a new job, you start taking notes on procedures and stuff and how to do things. That actually could end up being the thing that starts this at the end of a career too,
Mhm.
having just started a new job and have created myself my own binder, I easily can see it going to the next person, as basically this.
I was just curious, somebody mentioned template. Is there a way that we could do this by either getting like templates from other nearby towns or online so we don't have to like create the wheel? Because it's easier to work off a foil, if nothing else, than to try to like wonder if we've covered all the bases or, just a thought. I'd be happy to do some research if that's helpful.
There's a lot of information on the web about policies and procedures and a lot of good examples. We were drawing from my experience. I was just explaining to everybody, typically you have a policy section at the top and it's a high level statement. I was using Cash Manager, but I think what we have here for the, what was it called? So here's the example we were thinking of, policy for emergency management director. And what's in red is the policy. And then below it are the procedures, the things that person does to meet the policy, to achieve the policy. And I think it could be as simple as this, although certainly, Melody, if researching it to make sure we're barking up the right tree is not a bad idea. But
what
my
I-
experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John.
No,
Go ahead. George, keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I was done. I was just going to reiterate the same thing.
Okay, I was just gonna, Melody, when I've been handed like different documents from other towns, like I got the accountant's procedure from Orange, and you'd think you can hand from one town to another, but it's so interdependent on, there's some general things that are simple, but this was like a 300-page document and it went to minute detail, but it was all about the systems they use, the software they use, the practices they used, which were different, which are different than the ones we use. So I think some are general, but I found that a number of that I've come across are so specific, they don't translate easily from town to town. But I'm sure there's some that are more, so it'd be wonderful if you do some research.
Just for this position, or are there others?
We were talking about starting with department heads. We have two examples, two clerks. One left a notebook similar to what Melissa described with all the information relating to the land use clerk's job and all the, all the things you need to jump in, passwords, everything like that. and a description of the work and what reference materials you need. And the admin secretary, who's retired, is working on one to hand off to the new admin secretary. So we have 2 clerks that are doing it. And now we're trying to initiate something for department heads, but I think we're starting with department heads. Is that right, everybody?
Mhm.
Seems, yeah,
Yes.
that's my understanding from what I'm hearing tonight, because I wasn't at the other meeting. Does that make sense to everybody else?
It is making sense, yes.
Yes.
All right.
So that's the first agenda item.
What was the next one? Does everyone want me to continue to share this, or do you want me to take it and format it and send it as an actual draft? What would we like to do?
I vote for a draft.
Okay.
For our next meeting.
Okay, I'll draft
So-
it.
Okay,
Is that,
and the
Make
next meeting is September 15th, is that correct? I think so, yes.
And George, you said you wanted to work on it too.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I basically described to you the way I would do it, which is what we're looking at on the screen. But I mean, if Melody wants to research it and I can research it, we can come back and see and mention what the other things that we found on the web, other ways that this is done. I can do that.
If it's done, I mean, you have to assume
Well, policies and procedures is a pretty
other small
standard thing
towns do
for,
this.
but it's standard in business.
thought?
There's plenty of examples of policies and procedures and how to write
Yeah,
them.
okay.
Why don't I email it out to everybody so that everybody will have it to think about as, you're going about your research, Melody and George, and,
yes.
Okay. And do we agree that it wouldn't necessarily be one document for the whole department? It would be a document for all the important, the material responsibilities of the department. If the materials.
George, can you say that again? I didn't hear you. You sort of go in and out, but go ahead. Can you say that again, please?
So I was just asking, we don't necessarily want one policy and procedure document for a department. We want a policy and a procedure for all the key responsibilities of the department. As I mentioned earlier, as an example, we have one here, the Emergency Management Directive responsibility. We would ask the fire chief to write another one for all his other responsibilities, the examples being fire response, medical response. There might be another one in terms of keeping up with regulations. The policy is that the fire department will always be in compliance with new regulations. And what are the procedures to make sure that that is done? What does the fire
Right.
chief to make sure that that's done?
Well, you're
Making
saying
research.
key responsibilities, but not, and I agree with that. I mean, as opposed to more, I don't know if mundane is the regular thing. I think the key responsibilities are what we're looking for.
Right, and not one single document to cover the whole department, but you might have 5 of them for a particular department or 10 of them for a particular department, and all the things that department's responsible for can be together, and the new person coming in can see, okay, I'm responsible for this, and here's what we do to make that happen.
Right.
And I think in there too, this is just a thought, if it's a department, like a fire department or police department that has others, maybe there could be something that says this person does these 4 or 5, where the might be assigned to someone else. They could say,
Well, and that
okay,
could be the policy. The policy is that the
Yeah.
fire chief takes care of this,
Right.
and the captain
Mhm.
takes care of that.
because so that the next person coming in would know that it's not all on their shoulders to do everything
I
listed, because there is some delegation.
I think, now that I think back to the templates that I used to use, I think that's actually in there, and that's probably something that Melanie and I will figure out when we
Yeah.
do
Yes.
this. That's a good point.
They don't have to list them by name. It can be listed by title of that person, that way
Typically, that's what you do because names can change, but yes.
positions don't usually, yeah.
Okay. So we're set on this.
Yes. So are we ready to go on to the future? We're ready to go on to 3 then? So George and Melody, let's go back to 2, what we were just talking about. George and Melody are going to look into maybe getting some more information about how this is done and that we're thinking about policy and then the procedures for making that policy work and the responsibilities that you have to do. You have to, responsibilities for making it work. Are we ready? Are we ready to go on to determining a policy for including salary range or minimum salary in each job description? And how do we go?
Yes.
Sure. I'm gonna stop sharing this and I'll email it to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. Save it first always, right, George?
Always. I've been doing that with the minutes. I think I got them right.
Chris?
All right.
So George, are you putting something up on the screen?
I'm supposed to put something on the screen, me?
Oh, I didn't know what was happening. It got real quiet.
So what's the next item? This, the begin study on determining policy for including salary ranges?
Yes.
Yes. Do we have anything that,
Well, I was going to say, I sent an email to everybody that it's
Yes.
dated July 29th, with quite a few links with information in there that could provide a rationale. I mean, it's kind of the way things are going, especially as we consider diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is something that it's a practice that can attract a wider range of candidates, a higher quality, and more diverse candidates as well. So, I recently changed jobs in April, and my very first screening interview, they said, "This job pays this. Do you want to proceed?" And I said, "Yeah." And so that is, I think, it's a stellar practice. It doesn't waste people's time, and I think that yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons from the materials I sent you,
Yeah.
not which is DEI reasons.
So Melody, to add to what you just said about, I just started a new job in May. And when I interviewed, I had the salary and all of the benefits listed in the summary. And pretty much I walked out of the interview knowing exactly what my benefits would be, and my salary was negotiable to a certain point, but yeah. It was very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really attractive to candidates as they're looking at jobs. It makes their job stand out, to be honest. And I think that for me, or my new employer, which is Dana-Farber, I had a lot more respect for them in their hiring process, because I thought, ooh, this is really above board. I think it builds credibility and trust with your candidates.
And it's also, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And particularly because all of our salaries are public, it's in public record, but this would not require somebody to dig into it and having it be upfront. We also wouldn't run into having people sort of fishing for, positions.
And
then-
you might get somebody who's way overqualified and expects a high salary, but this happened with the treasurer. We had a guy who saw a treasurer and he interviewed with us. He was a treasurer for multi-million dollar companies. Well,
Well, we are.
hundreds of $1 million companies.
Okay, because we're
And he got
multi-million.
here and he saw us and it was like, oh boy. All knew it was a bad fit. Everybody in the call knew it was a bad fit.
And then he started yelling at his kids. That got ugly.
Yeah, and his
Oh, I
dog.
forgot. That's right. That's right. Well, and then we had somebody who I think thought that they could come up and just negotiate a candidate for a police chief position, thought, he would put down his 6-figure salary and we would do everything we could to match it, which somehow didn't happen. So how would this go forward?
Okay,
With
so
this,
I'm the one who brings the reality check to this. Part of the reason, so originally, if you look at the templates, the salary range was on the templates. And it was on the templates because we had stability in the overall salary chart and predictability, which we have none of today. And originally, when although that information was to be listed on the job descriptions, all of the department heads were on a grade 10 and all their salaries were included on the chart. The department heads have not been on the chart for 15 or 20 years. So I think the reality check is, I think it's a great idea and we can do it with our hourly people by using the chart, but we would have to figure out a way to put back department heads or figure that piece out in a predictable manner so you could give a range that really exists. We don't have that right now. So all we have is more, it's more of an estimation of range given on current practice and budget.
Can I ask a question? Becky, I appreciate that context. That's very helpful. Is it unstable for department heads? I'm using your word, unstable, because we kind of pay based on a case-by-case basis? Because I don't know if that's the most helpful practice, but I mean, I'm just trying to understand, why is there no stability there?
Okay, so what I'm trying to say, well, number one, the stability was, we used to pay 3% increase every year. And just like Amherst used to have this humongous chart, we had one chart where every grade and step had this chart that showed, so when we started, you knew what you were going to get paid in 10 years if you stayed in Shutesbury. Now, because we do this varying COLA and we don't have steps, we only have COLA, the chart has to get rebuilt every year. And you don't know what you're going to get paid in 5 years, much less 10 years.
But I think, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think the point is that your hiring salary, that's what we're talking about. We're not telling people what the COLA is going to be. We're just telling them what the hiring salary is. And I mean, 9 out of 10 jobs, you don't know what your COLA is going to be. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get a raise this year and I don't know what it's going to be. I mean,
but you have to give a range to do what you're saying. You don't just say one single number. You don't just say the starting salary is going to be.
Well, that's what I was told. The starting salary is this. And I'm not saying we have to do that. I'm just saying it's out there. I mean, it is common practice to say the starting salary is $50,000. So or whatever it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. If the steps and if the steps are not keeping up and we're relying on COLA, why not get rid of the steps and just have a starting range for a position, and the COLA just keeps going? Does that make sense? Like Amherst College had steps and all of that, and they got rid of it because it was just too complicated, and they just gave the merit and the cost of living raises, and there's no cap to a position. There's no cap for a salary in a position. It's
just,
just a thought.
okay, but you're not, I think we need to be looking at the salary chart to have this discussion. Because basically the COLA is the step, because we don't have steps. So COLA is the only thing that increases.
But I don't understand why we have to, why COLA has to be, I mean, why does that have to be known? Because I've never been hired at a job where they said, oh, and by the way, your annual increases are this, your COLA is going to be this. I mean, I think what needs to be known is what
Okay,
is
so-
the hiring salary?
But that's not what we have. You have to use a document to reference to bring all the starting salaries into one place. So they all have to be documented because of the whole payroll system we have revolves around the salary chart. So I don't think we can have this discussion until you guys understand the salary chart.
Well, look,
Yeah.
may I ask a
Because
question?
it's a lot of conjecture and I think it's confusing people.
But may I ask one question though? Before we were to take that step, each job description has a grade, right? And each grade has steps. And so Becky, I thought I heard you say earlier, a suggestion that made sense to me was the starting grade or the starting salary, the base salary or the starting salary for this job would be the first step for that grade for the job. So we could say in the job description, the starting salary is $40,000 because that's what the pay rate is for the first step in that grade. Somebody sees that and they understand that that's what we want to pay, but they may want to negotiate. They might say, but at least they know the range. So the guy who comes in and thinks he's going to make $250,000 as the treasurer sees that we really only pay our treasurer much less. And that ends the conversation, I think, back to what Melody was saying. But again, we always know what the base pay is for that job because we know what the first step is in salary.
Exactly.
So if we word it accordingly, I think we're safe.
But my point is that number changes almost every year. It changes every year.
Yeah.
So,
But if you're only hiring this year, you would just use this year.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to give them
where,
next year.
where are you going to put that number? If you're going to put that number in the job description, you have to change that number every year.
Yeah, annually. Or
Well, why would it have to go in the job description? Why would it not just go in the job posting? I mean, I think we need to talk about, are we talking about a job posting? How you get people interested? Or are we talking about the actual job description? Because my salary is not listed on my job description. The salary is on your job posting. That's what I'm talking about.
Fine, and that's all fine, but the whole topic that I was written up on the agenda was to put it on the job description.
yeah,
So
no, that's where this started because it was a line on the job description. And
I see.
Melody, I think it was at that point that you had said, why isn't the pay rate noted here?
Then that's my, sorry. I thought that this job description was going to be sent out to candidates for posting. So I didn't realize that this was like permanent record. So my apologies. That's my misunderstanding. What I was advocating for was salary transparency in the hiring process, which I think is different than the record process.
Right. yeah,
So-
definitely.
So,
And there's different
and
issues.
I'm sorry, I probably led everybody down a rocky road there.
No, it's fine.
No, it's
We're
still
all
good
figuring
discussion.
out what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's still good discussion.
Well, we can put it on future business too. And we can talk about it in our next meeting, when we are hiring, what are we doing in terms of salary? Unless you want to talk about it now. In terms of
Yeah.
salary transparency.
Yeah, so to be clear, I'm really talking about the hiring process.
So I guess the question is like, how big a range is acceptable to still be transparent?
Well, you can put a starting, you don't have to put a full range. You can put a starting salary.
Right. And
This is-
usually I would recommend it be the starting point in that grade. The low point of the grade.
But do we have that? That grade 10 starts at X? I don't think we have that. I think that goes that comes back,
Departments don't have anything.
right.
And that's, and we've had such stability until 2018. All the departments had been here over 10 years.
Right.
So it
And
was, there were salary battles, but they were more about what people, where people were at the time and not the starting range. But we're going to be dealing with the starting range, so it's a really important time to have this conversation.
Yeah. Because we did, yeah. I mean, we know the salary of the fire chief that left, and it is that the upper range of the, you know, what do you make of a rate? How do you decide from there what the beginning salary would be for a fire chief in our town?
Well, the range we put out for the fire chief was 50,000 to 65,000.
And is that the step one up to the top step within their grade?
There is no step one. They are not on.
Oh, yeah,
the-
that's right. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Say that again, Becky, there is no step. What did you
I
just
mean,
say?
the department heads, the grade 10s are not on our salary chart.
Okay.
And maybe that's part of our, our problem at this point. I don't know.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't call it part of the problem, but it is certainly something we might want to consider in this context. So then we would have something to provide
Mhm.
to candidates.
Yeah. And
I mean-
it's complicated.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Because people, yeah, anyway.
Because it also comes out of a contract negotiation, which is other employees in town don't have that. It's a different system.
It is
Okay.
negotiation, but we do, I totally agree with what Melody is saying is what our policy should be, and that is, especially because it does, I was looking at some of those articles as we were talking, and I know from our experience, having that out there so people know roughly where it will be, giving them kind of a range. And, somebody might, after the job interview, think, well, geez, that's too low for this job. Can you give me an extra 2,000 or whatever, but, or they just don't bother or they're happy with it. But at least we all know where we're starting from and it can weed out candidates.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to move more towards standardizing, what exactly grade 10 means in terms of salary, so that because I think sometimes there's been a huge range in how that salary has been
Well, the other thing
distributed.
too is, well, how about this as a solution? So first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like we don't provide salary information during the hiring process. We don't advertise it. We don't mention it.
No, we
And then-
mentioned a range.
No, we mentioned a range in the ads.
Okay,
Okay, so then the question becomes, where do we get the range? I guess my question is, where do we get that range?
And I took it from, like for the fire chief, I looked at where, you had done an analysis of fire chiefs. So I looked at that to get some grounding.
Based on Franklin County's wage and salary survey.
Yeah.
And I think it was a reasonable projection for range. I don't think anything was skewed in that at all.
So it sounds like we're doing what Melody is recommending we do, and that we as a board agree we should be doing. The only thing then is, for me, the question is, can we, the personnel board, assist you, Becky, in coming up with that salary range? So you come to one of our meetings and one of the agenda items becomes, I'm hiring for this position. What range should I advertise? Me and Melody as the representatives for the finance committee take the dollar amount piece into consideration. From a budget point of view, this committee from a marketing point of view, market value point of view, can give input, and we can come up with a range to give you, Becky, that we're all comfortable in advertising.
Sounds fine. What was, I had.
Does that feel,
that.
does that feel necessary to you, Becky? Or are we overthinking this?
Well, things change dramatically. Like, I'm thinking of different hiring when, I'm thinking of Leverett, when in negotiating with their new highway superintendent, part of his issues was, you pay all your laborers so low, I'm not gonna be able to get any good guys here. So I'm not gonna work for you unless you raise their rates $5,
Wow.
which they ended up doing. So that they could, so that he brought in a crew that he felt that he could feel good about, that they were making a competitive wage. So you get feedback in all different ways in negotiating a department head's position. So I think we were so out of whack on the librarian salary. I'm so relieved we've made an adjustment there. But how did that happen? It happened, 15 years ago, and it was based on the prior person, and the job had been the job had changed a lot.
Yeah.
And the whole community had changed a lot. No, I think it could be a valuable assist. I don't know how much, how big a deal it will be, but I think it will help make sure a market analysis is looked at and the market alignment is considered. I think what should happen first, April, is that the classification chart should get completed.
Yep.
So that we can have a clear understanding of current relationships between those positions. And that can go
We
in.
gotta get back, yeah, get back to that job.
Yeah, we got to complete that. So that piece can be in place. And then the comparisons of salaries can also have the numerical job rating to back it up.
Yep.
So I think it could help bring the whole system back together again. I think it'd be good.
Yeah. All right. We're on it.
Excellent.
So, all right, so basically, this is a new section that wasn't on the agenda. And it's called Personnel Board agrees that during the hiring process, candidates should be informed of starting range,
Yeah.
of salary range. I'll
I
fix
think
that.
people usually are.
Oh,
Yeah.
But that we're advertising and that we're
Yeah.
being transparent.
Yeah.
And then under that, I have Becky confirm that we do this. And Personnel Board would like to help determine what range to advertise.
And in
Yeah,
part,
it
the way
makes
to do that is,
alignment is done.
Well, I won't even say how. I'm just talking about what we're recommending our policies. Okay, yeah, I'll put that in there. Agreed that it should be involved in determining salary range to advertise. PB will perform a market analysis, perform a market alignment analysis, right? Is that okay? All right, I got that. And then, and was there one other thing? Is that it? So basically, we've
That's
come
it.
up with a modification to something that is already being done. Oh, the classification schedule does need to
Yes.
be.
Yeah,
but that needs to be completed. Maybe we should put an end date by,
Before your daughter's wedding?
no.
How about 3 months after her wedding? How about that?
Yeah, actually, once it's done, it's done. Yeah, they're taking care of all of that.
Oh, okay.
They're on it. I just have
I'm
to,
trying to say something.
Oh, no,
okay.
I had to switch phones. Both of my phones that I was using, the battery was going low. So I'm now on another phone. Okay, can George repeat what he has written down for the minute?
Yes, so this is going to be Personnel Board agrees during the hiring process, candidates should be informed of the starting salary range. Becky confirmed that salary ranges are provided during the hiring process. The Personnel Board agreed that the Personnel Board would like to be involved in determining salary ranges for new hires before advertising or position before advertising or for advertising. And then personnel board would perform a market alignment analysis for the position. And then finally, I put classification, classification, what's it called? Classification
Schedule.
Schedule, yeah, classification schedule.
Yeah,
should be completed. In April, you were going to suggest
an end date. Oh, how about if we give, what, can we get this done by the end of October? Sure. And if not, I won't get my raise.
yeah, right. We'll increase your taxes.
Please.
Yeah, don't bring that up. Okay.
That's a reversal. That's a wage reversal, George.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's your punishment for not completing it on time.
Right. All right, this
All right,
seems
goal of end of
reasonable.
October.
One loud
Okay.
cricket.
So, what we were going to discuss was a policy including salary range in a job description. What we have accomplished was something different. So, are we done with this one then?
I think so. I believe so.
Peg said yes.
Okay, so we still want to talk about putting a salary. Discuss a policy for including salary ranges or minimal salary in job description?
Say that again, George?
No, we're done.
So we don't need to address, so currently in job description, salary ranges are included or are not?
I think there's a blank space, at least in
Could
some.
we
of-
delete the heading or the title, the description within the job description? Why is it there? Why is it blank?
It used to be there, but when the ranges kind of were unpredictable. It was, because it was a to from. I think what you guys discussed is that you could have a to, but if it's in the if it's in the job description, you're gonna have to change it every year.
Right.
But I think to George's point, I mean, it kind of begs the question, like someone who would look at that and see a blank space, why not just remove that? Then there's really no
Yeah,
question.
that's fine.
Let's just
I think
remove
that makes perfect sense.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so basically discuss reporting, including wage and salary ranges or minimum salary and job description, and agreed to remove as this changes annually. Okay. There's no benefit to it.
Now, do
Okay.
we vote on that, or are we working on that for, so what do we say, October?
Could you guys hear Peg? I don't, I
Yes.
turned your phone up. Oh, you heard her? Okay.
Does it require a vote of the committee?
I think it does. I mean, it's a bit of a policy change, isn't it, or not?
Um,
I've sort of been between phones, so I'm not, I'd much rather be
It's a
doing.
minor change to a document. Well, I don't know. I think it's a minor change to a document, especially because it's kind of already been happening that way anyways.
Okay,
Yeah.
The only question would come up is if someone were to look at that and be like, hey, I thought that was on there. What happened to that? And just like for public record, we might want to say, I don't know. Not that I love taking votes, but just, you know.
What's in the minutes? I mean, it is documented in
Oh,
the minutes.
okay.
it's in the minutes, that's right.
That's good.
Somebody will find it.
Okay, is there anything, any new business?
No?
You will be getting the PAF for the fire chief that I have to get done.
Okay,
So that'll
Well-
come to you on the 15th. And just
Okay.
in case you guys are curious, the new fire chief was hired at $52,000.
Wow.
okay. And will you just let me know when you want me to come up and sign that, Becky, or?
Yes,
Okay,
it won't be tomorrow because I am going to be running all over town tomorrow. It won't be at my desk. So next week,
okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
When would be a good time frame to have the research distributed by? It would be helpful to have a sense, like by the end of the weekend, next week.
Well, before our next meeting,
Oh, okay. Well, that's true. Okay.
September 15th is what I currently have for our next meeting.
Right.
Yes.
September 15th.
15th.
Yeah, and October 20th, the meeting after that, and
Yeah, I've got those down. Does everybody else have those down? The
I
15th?
will in a moment.
Yes.
and November 18 would be the third Thursday, so I'm gonna put that in the minutes
Okay,
while we're on it,
At 6:30.
all of them.
Yeah.
does that work? Melody, does that work for you or is that hard for you? Would you
Well,
rather?
it's just tonight it was hard, but generally that's fine.
And
Okay.
December 16th, for December.
Okay, how about everybody else?
Yeah, it's
That
fine.
works. Yeah,
Yep,
that
yep,
works.
fine for me.
Hey, George, my
Yeah.
calendar says November 18th is a Friday.
Oh, 17.
Okay.
Well, check December. What do you got for December?
December 3rd Tuesday.
17th.
Thursday is the 15th.
Oh,
This
Okay.
15th, I'm sorry.
My calendar doesn't, yeah, this goofy calendar, I have the Adirondack calendar. In my eyes because of my age. Okay, got it.
And it's the
September 15th, October 20th, November 17th, December 15th.
Okay,
Okay.
And I will not be attending the October one.
3rd, okay.
well, I didn't hear that. George will not be attending what?
In
October.
October,
Uh-huh.
George
Grand-
is gonna go mountain climbing,
Well, trekking.
trekking.
I'm going to be in Nepal for the month of October.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched. It's
Send
crazy.
pictures or collect them anyway.
I might send a few. We're doing the Everest trek, so we're heading towards Everest Base Camp. I'm not necessarily going to Everest Base Camp because I don't think it's worth the walk, but we'll be near it and we're going to have pretty amazing views. We're actually starting low altitude in the jungles. We're going to be attacked by monkeys for the first week we're out there.
Oh, they're mean. They're really mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
yeah. I'm learning about this. Maybe see a rhinoceros. I don't know, tiger. And then we're going to slowly work our way up to Nancy Bazaar, which is the starting off point for a lot of Everest treks or a lot of Everest climbs. But I'm not sure really the exact routes, but yeah, it's all I think about right now. It's crazy. It's quite a thing.
So you may not
Turns out we
inter-
have a member of the finance committee who's been out there 3 times, and Becky's been to Nepal once.
Wow.
It's there for about
I mentioned.
a month.
Pardon me?
Wow.
I was there for about a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I was trekking or whatever for 2 weeks, I think it was. I was in high school. So
Oh,
it's
it's
been a long time.
Ah, wow.
The lack of roads when you get into the higher elevations and the time it takes to acclimatize to the higher elevations requires long stretches of time. You just can't go for a week.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Are you going in a group, George? Are you like an organized tour kind of
No,
thing?
no. Me and 4 friends. The guys, I do a lot of my hiking and my biking and my canoeing
Yeah.
and kayaking.
Fun, fun, fun.
One of them was in the Peace Corps in Nepal. He actually married a Nepalese woman. Came back to the States. He's been back there a number of times. And he's getting older, just like the rest of us, and said, I really want to go back. You guys should come with me. So we were all like, okay.
Fun. Well, that'll
Oh,
be-
My wife gave me
enjoy.
permission. I actually thought it was a crazy idea and said, I can't do that. And when I mentioned it to Marty, she was like, why wouldn't you? It's like,
Right, yeah. When are
so
you going to
basically I
do
got
this?
permission.
That's great.
It will be.
Glad
an
she's happy for me to
adventure.
go.
Yeah, the benign dictator, right? So should I move to adjourn?
Yes, I think we
Yeah.
should.
So there was one agenda item we didn't get to.
That's
Put it on
okay.
future
Melissa and
business.
I'll make sure we get it on the next
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah, future business, it'll be on there.
Okay, good.
I second
right.
that motion.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So all those in favor?
Aye, Arborite's aye.
Chartier, aye.
Make peace, O'Neill, aye.
Done,
Russ, aye.
right.
Thank you,
Aye,
guys.
aye, aye.
Aye.
See you later.
Bye.
Everybody for
Bye.
making it work.
Okay, and I'm gonna see about my Zoom, see what I can do.
Good luck.
Okay,
Yeah.
take care, everybody.
You too,
Bye-bye.
Pat.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.